Hello, everyone. Just as a segue into today's talk, I'd like to talk about the legacy submission process. And so this is the submission protocol that you may be more familiar with BOLD 4. You would prepare the specimen data, enter it into a worksheet, and then submit that online. And then there would be a pause where there was validation and cleaning and curation going on. And this process was very interactive. You would be working directly with data managers and curators to make sure that every field and every record of your submission is just perfect. And then the whole submission would become activated on Bold. And only after record activation would you be able to add additional information like images and sequences. With BOLD 5, we have attempted to streamline the process. So as before, you would prepare your specimen data, enter it into the Bold submission template, a worksheet, and then submit that to Bold. So long as you have data in the minimum required data fields, your record becomes activated on Bold immediately. So what that means is once your record is activated, there's no waiting period. You can go ahead and you can start with the rest of the pipeline. You can add images and attach your sequences. And we created a bit of an off ramp. So, in parallel, while that is happening, you're still getting automated validation and data cleaning, and you will receive an automatic message from Bold letting you know about the status of your records. And there is also another off ramp where, if it is required, you will also work with the curators who will maybe request further information from you just to make sure that the final bits of information in your submission are perfect. But I do want to stress the fact that at this point here, where it says Bold record activation, at that point, your data is on Bold. The BOLDv5 website is available here at boldsystems.org. We have templates available that have been updated for BOLD 5. And there are a number of different ways that you can submit data, either one record at a time or as a batch. But the templates are available through the Resource Hub. You can sort of browse over to it. And we have a specimen data single page, specimen data multi-page version that you can use to enter your data. It is also available on other parts of the website. So if you are on the workbench, for example, and you're ready to make a submission, you can also access the same templates through the workbench. In your project, you click on Uploads in the left-hand pane, Specimen Data, and then Initiate Batch Submission. And then we'll provide a link so that you can download the latest template if you wish to use it. We are still supporting the older templates, so if you've already entered your information, that's fine. But going forward, if you'd like to use the latest templates, they're available both on the Resource Hub as well as on the Workbench for you to use. There are two ways that you can make submissions to Bold. One is the single specimen record page where you just fill in the blanks and you can enter the information for one record at a time. But we do highly recommend using the batch submission process, and that involves filling in the Excel spreadsheet and submitting that as a batch through the page that you see on your screen now. And that method is more efficient because you can see all of your data in that Excel spreadsheet. It's not lost anywhere. You have a copy for yourself, and you can use that spreadsheet to enter in hundreds of records or even just a single record. This is an overview of the BOLD 5 templates. They both capture the exact same data fields. The only difference is in the structure of the Excel spreadsheet. So on the left is the BOLD 5 specimen data single page worksheet. Basically, it just means that all the columns go off into a very wide spreadsheet. And on the right is the BOLD 5 specimen data multi-page worksheet template. And just for your convenience, we've split the different types of data into different tabs, but they both capture the same information fields. Inside the template, you may notice a table that looks like this. It's color-coded. On the left, in colors, those are the column names in the Excel spreadsheet. And on the right is a mapping to the BCDM field. BCDM stands for Barcode Core Data Model. There are two ways to submit your data. There's the single specimen web form and the batch submission process. Here I'm showing an overview of the single specimen web form. We still support this method, but we do highly recommend you use the batch submission process. New with BOLDv5 is the use of the barcode core data model. If you would like field definitions, so you can read about them on the GitHub page. There are definitions that you can download. I'm just showing you how you can download them there if you watch the screen. You can see the definitions. You can download a copy for yourself. So I'm going to move on to the second part of the webinar, what you can expect from BOLD after you've submitted your data. As a part of the BOLD5 submission process, I mentioned that so long as you have data in the minimum data fields, minimum required data fields, your record becomes activated on BOLD. There are currently 5 minimum required data fields. And so long as you have data in these fields, your record is activated on BOLD right away. The first is the sample ID field. It's an identifier that the user enters. It's usually equivalent to the field ID or the museum ID. The second required field is either a field ID or a museum ID. And the third required field is institution. That would be the institution that is storing the physical specimen. The fourth required field is phylum, and the fifth would be a country or an ocean. So once you have data in those minimum required data fields, your record is activated on BOLD immediately. There's no waiting period there. And you can go ahead and start adding images and sequences. In parallel, there will be some automated validation and data cleaning that will be going on in the background. And also in parallel, BOLD curators will be working with you if needed to correct or update any fields in your submission. Also new with BOLD5 is the introduction of verbatim fields. A verbatim field is basically a duplicate of a key field on BOLD that typically uses a controlled vocabulary. So the verbatim field, it captures the data as it was entered by you. And on BOLD, we use controlled vocabulary for certain fields. And that just standardizes the language so that when you're doing searches, it makes it more efficient to find relevant results. And so what are some of the benefits of these verbatim fields and capturing data in these fields? One is visibility. So the raw data submitted by you are tracked and separated and visible on the specimen record. It allows for continuous improvement. So when there are differences between the standardized vocabulary and perhaps something that you've entered, these will be highlighted, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of quickly spot those and update them if you wish. And imperfect is okay. So we're trying to lower the bar to make it easier to get data onto BOLD quickly. And if you have any records that are incomplete or have non-standard language in some of these fields, we can deal with that on the side in parts while you go on with the rest of your submission. So here is an example. The taxonomy fields are an example of fields that have verbatim fields. And so I'd like to focus in on this part of the specimen record. So here I'm looking at the identification method, BOLD ID engine top hits, and identification method in the verbatim field. Here you can see that the user entered tree-based ID and then they entered a date. That is informative to the user, but it is not using the standardized language that BOLD expects. So it's been highlighted in yellow on BOLD. And you can see that the standardized term is up here in the actual taxonomic live field. What's happening in the background when you make a submission is we have a lot of automated checks and balances. So we're just making sure that the format of your submission is correct and that the expected content in each different field type is what we would anticipate. And then you will receive an automated email message once those automatic checks have been done. And in the background, well, the curators may also need to get involved to finalize the little bits of the submission. And so what I'd like to do now is talk about the structure of the messages that you're receiving. It will summarize the number of records that are in your submission. It will tell you the number of issues, issue types that it encountered. It will tell you what the automatic corrections were in some cases. So I've highlighted here a section called automatic corrections. It's telling you here that two fields, class and species, were affected. And it's also telling you what issues outstanding. So these are different kinds of issues. They may be errors, or it may just be that there is new names in your taxonomy that are not yet in our database. So we're just letting you know that we have found these issues, and highlighted in blue, we're letting you know that these errors could be due to the values that were entered, or it could just be missing fields in our registries. And then also in blue, I'm highlighting that our curation team will take a look at these particular issues, and they will try to correct them themselves or add a new name to our registry. But if there are any problems, then a curator will reach out to you directly to follow up. But we do provide these two attachments. The one on the top left shows the summary of automatically corrected fields, and on the right, any outstanding issues. You can review these. And if you determine that maybe something was entered incorrectly, you can go back in and you can update your record or wait for a curator to contact you. One type of automatic correction that we see comes up a lot is the collection date format. This is an entry that you might see in an email. We provide a unique reference ID. It tells you which field was affected. In this case, it was collection date start, and it shows you the information that was entered by you. It tells you that we have automatically converted this value, and it tells you what we've converted it to. So in this case, it's still the same date, it's just a different date format. And then it tells you the number of records that were affected by this issue. So essentially, this type of notification that you would get an email for just lets you know that something was automatically corrected. The date format was standardized. User action, no action is required unless you think that the correction was incorrect, in which case, please contact Bold support and we can help you with that. Another type of common issue that we find is unregistered taxa. So I'm going to walk you through this notification as well. We provide a unique reference ID. We tell you which field was affected, species. We tell you that this was an unregistered species value. That's basically telling you that it's a new name for Bold. It tells you what the hierarchy was associated with that species name and that it affected 4 records. And so this just lets you know that we did identify an issue. User action, if you have supporting data that could support this new species name, you could provide it. So you could reference the unique reference ID B1. It was published like so with this reference, provide a link. However, you don't have to do anything. If taxonomy has troubles identifying that species name, they will reach out to you automatically to get further information. Another type of issue that comes up often is unregistered country or province data. And similar to taxonomy issues, it just means it's probably a new name in our registry, and we're just bringing your attention to that. Here is the unique reference ID. It tells you the field affected, it was province. It's telling you that it was an unregistered province value, so it's either a typo or it's a new name in our registries. It's giving you the hierarchy of that province, that it's affecting 98 records, and it's basically advising you that if the data looks valid to you, it looks just fine, and it's just missing from our registry, our curators will add it to the registry for you. And so basically, this just lets you know that we noticed an issue, but the user doesn't have to do anything unless you see that maybe it's a typo or something on your part. Otherwise, it will be resolved by our curators. When we're working with country and province data, we're actually using geonames. You can look up valid names on geonames. And in this example, it turns out that Lombardia is a valid province name, but it's one of the alternate spellings for this name. So Lombardy would be the standardized term. Another issue that we sometimes come across is country or province data that is entered in the incorrect field. So in this case, the name of a natural park was entered in the province field. And in this case, it's telling you that we don't have this name in our registry because it's not a national park, isn't the same as a province. But it is letting you know the data that was submitted, it was affecting one record. And in this case, we're asking you to please provide a correction if possible. And so in this case, it lets the user know that there's an issue, provides instructions on next steps. And in this instance, we would recommend that a province be added to the province field and that the natural park name be added to the site field. This is unregistered depository. So in this case, the system is telling you that this university name that was entered, it's an unregistered value, which means it's new to our registries. It affects 95 records. And in this case, we're just notifying you that we've noticed an issue. In the background is new institutions are entered by our curators as they come in.